cat with black tiger stripes. It had emerged from the darkened back alleyway to stand next to the library's cool, pearly pink granite wall and watch me. Someone needs to protect those books before they all end up destroyed. They're sending them to the landfill. The small metal flashlight clenched between my teeth caused the words to come out garbled. Both of my hands were busy working the lock. A textbook for locksmiths that I'd borrowed from the library's reference section sat open to the page featuring a diagram of a lock. Since I didn't own a lockpick kit, why would I? I'd improvised with a few sturdy paper clips bent to resemble the tools depicted on the book's previous page. Every little sound, every scrape and rumble in Cypress's quaint downtown boomed in my ears. I jumped at the soft cough of a car engine. And with that cat watching me, I felt an itchy need to scurry into the nearest mouse hole to hide. But I couldn't run. I had to finish what I'd set my mind to finishing. After what felt like a million thundering heartbeats while I fumbled with the paper clips, the lock clicked. The door opened. I rose on shaky legs, gathering up the reference book and the stack of flattened moving boxes I'd brought with me. My gaze darted to the darkest corners of the alleyway before I slipped inside. Just as the door started to close, the cat that had been watching with such a judgmental glare shimmied between my legs and into the library before the heavy metal back door clanked closed. "Hey!" I called in a harsh whisper, because shouting in a library simply wasn't done. Whispering seemed even more important in the middle of the night as I sneaked inside on my clandestine mission. The brown cat ignored me. With a yow loud enough to have me instinctively hissing, "Shh!" the little beast darted upstairs and disappeared into the shadows of the stacks. "True, you're in for it now," I muttered before dropping the stack of boxes. I sprinted after that darn cat. Mrs. Farnsworth would have a heart attack if she discovered a flea-bitten kitty wandering among her books in the morning. I needed to get him out. The head librarian was already on edge with having to deal with the changes coming to the library. If I didn't know the tough older woman better, I would have suspected she was busy plotting a murder. Every time she had to deal with the man behind the changes that were ripping apart both of our worlds, she'd grit her teeth and smile so tightly it looked as if her lips might crack open. But later, when she talked about him and his grand plan, her smile changed into something horrible that made ice tiptoe up my spine. The trouble had started 3 weeks ago. Duggar Hargrove, the town's new and aggressive town manager, had made his way up the long run of steps and into the library's historic atrium. Dressed in a tweed suit and a pink tie that matched his bright pink complexion, he stood in the middle of the room with his round fists planted on his hips. The mayor and several members of the town council had followed him into the library's semicircular atrium and had gathered like a smiling army of suits around him. Duggar, talking much too loudly for inside a library, called for Mrs. Farnsworth to stand next to him. Because she was both a Southern lady and a librarian with the highest standards of comportment, she complied without question. The only sign of her displeasure was a slight shivering of the string of pearls that always adorned her long, elegant neck. Although I grew up in the South and had attended the strictest cotillion classes in town, I had never mastered the art of masking my feelings. Those pesky emotions showed up on my face as clearly as a bright red hat sitting atop a lady's head. I could feel my brows wrinkling and my mouth twisting into a look of puzzlement as I stepped out from behind the front desk to watch as Duggar raised his beefy hands as if asking for silence. This struck me as silly since he was standing in the middle of a library where silence was the rule. He cleared his throat and gave the mayor a nod before speaking. His voice rumbled like a car engine in need of a tune-up.
"Thanks to my efforts, and those of our elected officials, of course, he said, clearing his throat again, the town of Cypress has seen unprecedented growth over the